Hi loves, it's Sundial from Substance Over Style. Welcome to a new video. We are in the garden today. It is summer in London. I absolutely love it. I've got my iced coffee. What have I got? Just want to do a little plug for this company that kind of gave me this CBD cold brew coffee. So this is adaptogenic coffee, cold brew. It's got CBD in it. That was given to me in a goodie bag a couple of months ago when I shot for Vogue Singapore in February. And yes, it's taken me that long to, I mean, who drinks cold brew coffee in the winter? It's now warm enough to enjoy iced coffee, so here we are. We're gonna do our best. If you guys have watched some of my videos that I filmed in the garden before, you'll know that I've got a train that goes around the back of my house, so I might have to pause talking periodically because I don't think you can hear me over it. But we'll do our best, and I want to get some vitamin D and a little bit of grounding done today while we film this video, because it's been a minute since the last one. The last one was 2 weeks ago. I apologize for that, guys. That last video attracted quite a lot of clients into my DMs wanting to book sessions with me, so I've been very busy doing sessions the last 2 weeks and then also living life. And this also came up in a session recently. So most of my clients are like light workers and star seeds, and they generally like either they've already started making the transition, or they're wanting to make the transition into doing their soul aligned mission work professionally. Many of you have already been doing it regardless, like since you came here, whether you know it or not, but doing it professionally and kind of reclaiming your wealth consciousness is something that's kind of happening more and more. But obviously a lot of people have blocks around doing this type of work or similar type of work or whatever you're uniquely coded to do here, because obviously, you know, in this reality we have to work and pay the bills and work for the man and the matrix and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of like very highly coded beings who are kind of doing work that is, I don't want to say beneath them, because I don't think that there's any work really that's beneath any of us, but they're not really coded to be doing, and they know that. And just kind of, so making that transition is quite difficult, because you have to have a lot of courage and a lot of trust in the divine will of creator, and that you'll be supported in your mission work. And that can be hard for people. So one thing that kind of came up in a session recently is, you know, just starting to establish a bit of that divine masculine structure where you just start working very slowly towards your goals. I mean, most of you who are following me know that I've been doing YouTube for many years. When I was, you know, traveling internationally as a model, and I wasn't doing YouTube professionally. I wasn't doing coaching or healing work at all. I was just speaking truth on YouTube, like as a hobby in between modeling jobs. And I'm still modeling. Modeling is still very much my day job, and is paying me more than the healing and the session work at the moment. But that is now starting to shift a little bit. I'm kind of at that kind of, what's that word? That switch point, where it's now shifting, where the coaching and healing is starting to outdo the modeling. It obviously depends what I put more time and energy into, but what I was saying to one of my clients is just have like a set structure and make it very manageable. Like it could just be like one Instagram post a week, where you just start, your only focus is to just start building an online presence and building an audience. Not even about getting clients or launching the business yet, just about doing your mission work. Because I started doing my mission work long before I started doing it professionally. I was speaking truth on this platform, you know, whatever the truth that I felt called to share at that time, long before I ever thought about making a business out of it. And I didn't even know that I was going to ever make a business out of it. I just did it for the sheer purity of needing to get certain things out into the collective. So yeah, just having like a consistent schedule. And sometimes it doesn't happen. Like, you know, you guys have seen like my last video, I try and do one video a week. That's all I can manage without getting completely burnt out while I'm still doing modeling. Hold fire, train. It's got a bit of a beat to it. Yeah, and I don't like to get burnt out, and to do the work that I do, I need to have a really, really strong nervous system and a really strong yeah, just my immune system needs to be strong. Like, all my senses need to be active. If I'm feeling burnt out or run down or anything like that, I can't do session work. So, you know, some of you who are my clients will know that sometimes I've moved sessions around, you know, to allow for modeling and also to allow for rest in between. So when I talk about structure, I'm not talking about being like so disciplined that you stick to that structure no matter what, okay? I just let a week go past where I didn't make a video, 2 weeks go past where I didn't make a video, because I'm just not about to get burnt out, you know. And I did have things that I wanted to talk about, but just trying to stick to the structure as much as possible. But if life gets in the way, you know, people have got kids and people have got bills to pay and things like that, just do it when you can. You know, and don't be too hard on yourself, you know. Just, it's about, it's that hierogamic process of, one, having the structure that you try and stick to as closely as possible, but also, two, listening to your body, because if you completely deplete your body and you burn out, then you're not going to be any good to anyone. So let's just let this go past. Okay, so today's topic is, there are no shortcuts to healing, okay? Now there are, okay, I said that and then I'm going to say, okay, so personally I found Kriya Yoga to be the fastest shortcut to healing. But as what I mean to say is, there are no shortcuts to healing other than actually committing to the process and actually doing the work, whatever your chosen modality is. For me, I found Kriya Yoga to be the fastest. And in Autobiography of a Yogi, was it Paramahansa Yogananda, or was it his guru? I think it might have been his guru that said that, or it might have been Paramahansa Yogananda himself who said that, you know, just going through your normal life lessons and kind of self-reflection, journaling, all of that stuff, it's kind of like taking a slow bullock cart all the way back to cosmic consciousness. Whereas if you do Kriya Yoga, it's like taking the super highway. Like, I don't know if they had super highways back then, but it's like taking like a Concorde, like a super fighter jet. Like, it's a super highway basically of emotional detox. It's the fastest way to just basically save yourself years of looping, which I've said in previous videos. But what I see a lot of with people who need to heal, most of us need to heal, right, from all the bullshit of being human, but with people who know that they need to heal and they're just delaying it, and look, no shade, no shame, I did the same thing for years, and thinking that you can just put band-aids on it by, you know, going out, getting drunk, going partying, traveling, and look, I'm not saying don't traveling is great. Like, you know, I wouldn't be where I am without, you know, my journeys and the things that I've learned and the people that I met while I was traveling. But a lot of the time it is just you trying to escape yourself, escape being in your body, escape your old stories by being in a new place. But everywhere you go, you take yourself with you, and all your old stories and all your old traumas, which are stored in your body. So, you know, many people try and like temporarily get a fix for the anxiety and or the betrayal trauma or the abandonment trauma or whatever stories you have running, by trying to source from out externally. So they'll seek relationships, they'll try and, you know, source love like horizontally, right? What I mean by that is through other people, whereas love can only come from the divine streams of Creator. So what happens when you haven't healed your trauma and you try and source love horizontally? You end up choosing people who are going to reflect the work that you still need to do. And this can be fine. I'm not saying that you will always choose wrong people, but it depends on where you're at, okay? I'm not saying that you have to be completely healed to seek a relationship. I'm not completely healed, by any means, and I've been in a relationship for a while now. So, and I'm not, you know, a lot of the time healing does take place within the relationship because of the mirrors that are reflected by the other person. But this is what I'm saying. When you're so unhealed that you still have really, really negative stories about people, that people always abandon you, or that you're not chosen, or that you're second best, that other people will always be chosen over you, that you always get left for other people, that you always get cheated on, that men are abusive or women are gold diggers, or whatever that is, you'll continue to be magnetized to people that are going to repeat back that story to you. Because the trauma in your field will literally, you'll be magnetized to people who have that frequency, who are going to teach you that lesson, because your subconscious is always trying to seek healing through the fastest route possible. And vice versa, they will also be magnetized towards you, because they can see that you've basically got the frequency where you're wanting what they have. That's why you're so magnetically drawn to people when you still have a lot of unhealed trauma in your field, because you're basically forming trauma bonds with these people. And these trauma bonds feel like very, very deep soulmate connections because they kind of are. A lot of the time we've made these soul contracts with people who are within our soul tribe to teach us certain lessons to basically facilitate and accelerate our ascension journey. So that narcissist will be at a higher level, probably part of your soul tribe, your monad, because he's contracted to teach you that certain lesson that's going to accelerate you on your awakening journey. Or the woman that betrayed you, slept with your best friend or your brother, or whatever the intense trauma it was, that brought you down to rock bottom so that you would seek something different, okay? Because, you know, keep on doing the same thing. You know, when anyone keeps on doing the same thing, expecting different results, that's the very definition of insanity. So if you keep on seeking people to constantly teach you lessons and expecting that you're going to find your true divine love soulmate who's going to give you everything that you want, and you haven't actually done the work to heal your emotional body, then you're insane. To put it bluntly. Or you're behaving in an insane way. It's not healthy, okay? There has to come a point where you realize that what you're doing is not working, and you're continually repeating the same story. And sometimes it goes in a spiral where each time you learn a certain lesson, you heal that lesson, you integrate it, and then you choose again, and then the lesson repeats itself, but it's like maybe not as extreme. Maybe it's a little bit better because there's the lesson is still encoded, but there's another deeper layer of it. Now, you can definitely do that. I did that for many years. Like, my whole 20s was learning lessons through karmic relationships. But then, you know, a couple of years ago, went to Bali and was initiated into my Kriya Yoga journey. And thank God I was, because I honestly believe that just by doing the teacher training, I saved myself years of heartache. Because it's not just that you'll choose people who will have a certain signature, your beliefs about people actually end up manifesting. So if you constantly have the story that men will always cheat, or, you know, men are perverts, or they're porn addicts, or, you know, women will always choose guys with more money, or whatever the story is, if you constantly keep repeating that story in your subconscious mind, it basically gets reflected. The 3D is just a photocopy of what's happening within our subconscious mind, because we are conscious creators. We are so much more powerful than we've been led to believe. So we are literally co-creating the universal hologram through our belief systems, okay? Our higher dimensional avatar contains all the subconscious belief systems and programs that we've been encoded and incarnated here to collapse out by choosing different stories. When we see the reflection in the collective hologram, i.e. 3D reality, we can either choose to keep on repeating that story because we like it, or we can choose to change it because we don't like it. So if I, for example, keep on getting cheated on, then at some point I've got to look at, what am I doing to keep this happening? Because I don't see all my friends also getting cheated on. Like, sometimes you will, though, because if that's your dominant belief, you'll choose to be magnetized towards friends that also have that same story, but not always. Okay, so for me, you know, I was cheated on in my 20s, but loads of my friends were not getting cheated on. So even though I did have a dominant narrative that the person that I was with would always cheat, and so he did, I knew that not all men were like that. So I chose to choose a different story, and I chose to start trusting people, and I was never cheated on again. So you've got to just start telling yourself a different story. And with embodiment practices or trauma healing practices like Kriya Yoga, like Breathwork, like natural dance or ecstatic dance, or like EMDR or whatever, or quantum field work like I do one-on-one with my clients, when you actually drop out the old story from your field to the point where you don't even need to keep telling yourself that story anymore, because you've become so aligned to the truth that you just can't believe you ever believed the other nonsense story. So like, for example, one of my clients had the dominant assumption that fuck's sake, I love being in the garden, but this is just very annoying. Had the dominant assumption that men don't want to commit, that they don't want to get married, that they don't want children, that they just want to be free. And so that was what she was continuing to experience with men who weren't ready, men who didn't want to settle down, men who, you know, didn't like children, didn't want to have a family, didn't want to provide. And so when I basically presented her a different story that said, well, actually that's not true. True divine masculine loves being a provider, loves being a protector, loves having a wife to help him build his kingdom, loves building a legacy, loves having children that will, pass on his DNA. Like, he basically lives through them and he leaves a legacy behind. He basically leaves a part of himself for when he leaves this planet. There's a part of him that will still continue to live on. Same like women, Hi, I'm doing a video. She's put me off. So as soon as I presented her with that belief system, it collapsed out the old story, and she realized that she was choosing a lower timeline just through her subconscious limiting beliefs. And as soon as she told herself that story, she actually started to see in her experience, men that were getting married, like, her Facebook newsfeed started showing her different things, her Instagram, she started seeing men having babies and just declaring like how happy they were, how they felt like a man, now that they had like a wife and children to provide for, and it started to basically really seep into her subconscious mind and completely transform her belief system. So now she's kind of with somebody that is wanting that with her, and she's completely shifted into a higher timeline. So that's how powerful retraining your subconscious mind is. And you can just do it by flipping all your thoughts and your belief systems. But when you have like intense like betrayal trauma or like rejection trauma that can come all the way from childhood, or it can come from early relationships, that actually gets stored in your body. And even when you get into a relationship with somebody who does want the same things as you, little things can trigger it. Like if they don't text you back for a few hours and you just assume that they're out with somebody else and hooking up with somebody else, and rationally, logically, that that's nonsense, and that the person you've chosen has integrity and is unlikely to do that, but your body is having a fight or flight response because the trauma is still trapped within your body, so you continue to react. And sometimes, when people are in a really heightened a fight or flight trigger response, they tend to go back into that trauma. Like they literally, it's like, you know, because everything is happening in the now moment, they actually start accessing the part of themselves that is still living that in that story. So you know that you might find that your body will actually start having a trauma response, and then they'll start reacting. They might start texting the person, sending like desperate texts or sabotaging texts, or like break up with the person, or try and break up with the person, or try and do something to like manufacture a kind of response. And when you do that, you're very rarely going to get the kind of response that you want, and you could end up completely just sabotaging the relationship. So this is why I say, until you heal your trauma, you will continue to repeat the same story, because you'll just end up manifesting it until you collapse it out. So if you are serious about wanting to align with a higher timeline and drop out the old story, I highly recommend that you start, you know, taking trauma healing seriously. My course, Reclaim Your Crown, can help you do that. I also highly recommend different types of breathwork. I've had great success with Wim Hof or Marcel Hof breathwork techniques, also known as holotropic breathwork, ecstatic dance or natural dance. If you're in London, my friend Laura Cherry does amazing guided embodiment workshops that help to kind of move energy and kind of detox trauma from the body. So I will link the interview that I did with her, or just find your local ecstatic dance. You know, I feel like Laura's workshops are really good for people that aren't comfortable with ecstatic dance, because you do have to kind of be a little bit like uninhibited to be able to dance so freely in front of people like that. But I mean, for me, when I found ecstatic dance, I was just like, this is exactly where I need to be, because I always was like that, you know, from the age of like 16, 17, 18, whenever I would go like clubbing with friends, I would always be the first one on the dance floor, even if there was nobody on the dance floor. If the music was good, I would get on that dance floor. I didn't even have to drink, because I just love dancing. And a lot of people completely misunderstood me at that age, because so many people are so inhibited that they don't understand that somebody could just be enjoying the experience of being in their own body. And I had loads of people accuse me of being like an attention seeker and all of that stuff, and it's just like, no, like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind attention, but that's not why I dress how I dress or why I dance how I dance. It's literally, I just love being creative, and I love playing with my avatar, and I love the feeling of being in my body, you know, whether it's dance, whether it's, you know, really beautiful healthy food, whether it's a sunset, whether it's, you know, swimming in the ocean or surfing, whether it's making love with somebody that you feel really emotionally deeply connected to. Like, I just love being human sometimes. Obviously it sucks sometimes, but when you have trauma, a lot of the time people are trying to escape the body, which is what I talked about in my last video about how to tell if you have an entity attachment, where I was talking about why people drink alcohol, because alcohol actually helps your spirit escape your body for a little bit, because it can be so uncomfortable with being in the body sometimes. You know, some of those bodily sensations like anxiety or, you know, just nervousness or whatever feelings that we have that are connected to different traumas that we've experienced can be really uncomfortable to experience. So a lot of people will try and escape through, you know, throwing themselves into their work or drinking alcohol or eating junk food. And, you know, those are not ideal, but there are much more healthy coping strategies to deal with those uncomfortable sensations, like meditation. And I'm not a person that really likes sitting still in meditation that much either. Like, I do it because I'm now better at it since I healed my nervous system. I actually quite enjoy it, but until I healed my nervous system, I didn't really like it that much. But I used to really enjoy being creative, so making things with my hands, sewing, making clothes, pattern drafting, making jewelry, because all of that is extremely meditative. It kind of actually is similar to EMDR. It's also why with if you're like knitting or crochet, knitting and crochet is actually very similar to EMDR, because EMDR is basically where you're basically connecting the right and brain hemispheres, through eye movement. So knitting will do that. But Kriya Yoga also does it through balancing the brain. We balance the brain hemispheres through working on, both sides of the body, tapping trauma out, using the breath to move it out and detox it from your meridians, but then also doing Kriyas around the head that balance the brain hemispheres. So what happens when you balance the brain hemispheres is you clear polarities, you bring polarities into harmony. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? You basically neutralize. When you're internally polarized, it will be, on one hand, you'll go into like a wounded feminine consciousness where you suppress your natural healthy femininity, which is your ability to feel your emotions, because maybe you feel like your emotions are too much, that expressing your emotions is going to push people away, that they're not going to hold space. So then instead you become emotionally manipulative, which is like a wounded feminine expression. And then from there, you might act out, you might be explosive, you might start acting controlling, or just get angry at somebody for not, being able to read your mind and pick up on the hints that you were giving them, and trying to manipulate them with, and trying to communicate the fact that you were not happy about something. So that's kind of a wounded masculine expression of that wounded feminine expression. So when you neutralize the polarities, you actually bring yourself back into balance, where your internal masculine holds space for your internal feminine's emotional spectrum. So where you feel abandoned, where you feel neglected, where you feel jealous, where you feel insecure, and you have that inner conversation with yourself, and you say, okay, I'm really triggered right now by the fact that he hasn't texted me back, or the fact that he's talking to that girl over there, and that makes me feel, okay, you might feel angry, but underneath it you might actually feel afraid that you're going to be abandoned. You might feel really triggered because you were cheated on by your first love, and also you hold space for your emotions, and you have that conversation that say, no, it's okay that you feel like this. I understand that you feel like this, okay? It wasn't my intention to hurt you. Have that inner conversation, and then you go and talk to your partner, for example, and you just say, listen, I know you weren't doing anything wrong. I know that you would never try and hurt me, but when you were talking and laughing with that girl over there, I felt really, really uncomfortable and really, really unsafe, and really scared that I was going to be rejected or abandoned, or I was triggered because, and you don't make it his fault, okay? Because when you've neutralized those polarities, your internal masculine has made your internal feminine feel safe to feel those emotions, and also to express those emotions through the throat portal. So basically, with your womb and your throat is really starting to connect. So you're going through that hierogamic process within your body, where your masculine chakras and your feminine chakras start to actually marry each other. And then, so this is where you actually start to come into divine union with yourself, and then with a partner. The partner, like when people talk about hierosgamos and divine union, they ask me, are you in divine union? Are you in a hierogamic relationship? My hierogamic relationship is with God. Your hierogamic relationship is always with God. The other person just reflects your state of integration. So there are times when I feel completely unintegrated, when I'm triggered and I'm in a stress response, and of course then my relationship feels like it's not a divine union. It feels extremely tested, and I don't feel safe within it. And then there are other times where I've really done the work. I've had that inner conversation to really hold space for my emotions, and then I talk with my partner, and then it feels really safe and really connected and really aligned to my highest timeline and with source consciousness. So your divine union is always with God first, and then gets reflected externally by the other, because we're all fragments of source consciousness. So your divine union, people have this thing that your divine union is like this one person that you've got to find out of like 7 billion people, and they put it on a pedestal and just act like they'll never find it, and that's why they stay single for so long and never find it, because they don't understand that your divine union is whoever you choose once you come into alignment with your highest timeline and with source God, and that inner knowing that you are loved by God, and the other person will reflect that. So it's where all your polarities become neutralized, because your internal divine masculine, which is connected to the Holy Father, hold space for your internal divine feminine, which is connected to the Holy Mother, Earth Consciousness, Pachamama, Sophia, like the goddess, that current of creation that is the divine feminine, that is manifested reality. So yes, I hope that makes sense. Yes, I think that's all I want to say. Let me know if you have questions. You can post them in the comment box below. As I said before, Reclaim Your Crown, my course that teaches you embodiment and Kriya Yoga, the link is in the description box below. I'm also available for sessions. If you want to book sessions with me, like I said in my video a couple of videos ago, I will soon be increasing my price a little bit. Once I start working on my website, which will be maybe a month from now, then I'll probably put my price up a little bit, just because I'm now much more experienced. I'm now offering a lot more value. Every session that I do, my gifts start to open up more and more. So I definitely feel like it's ready to go up a little bit, but you can get me at the current price for like the next month or something. So if you've been considering working with me and you want to get me at the current price, now would be a good time. So yes, I think that's it. I will love you and leave you, soul fam. If you have suggestions for things you want me to talk about, then you can also suggest them in the comment box below. I'll love you and leave you. Peace out. One love.